Welcome to Inner Niña Podcast, embracing your inner child while leading with strength. This is a space for Latina women and beyond who are ready to break generational cycles and lead from a place of wholeness. Together, we will reconnect with the little girl inside, the one who dreamed big, felt deeply, and longed to be seen, and honor her as we step in fully into our power. Join me, Maria Benitez, for heartfelt reflections and empowering conversations about identity, healing, culture, and leadership. Each episode invites you to embrace your inner niña while leading with authenticity, compassion, and courage. Welcome back to Inner Niña. Today, we welcome a dear friend, hermana, and a mentor, Adela Garcia. Adela has been working her entire life to help others. She knows firsthand the difficulties that Latinas face at home, at work, and the importance of having a solid support system to help them advance their families, their careers, and community. Adela is the co-founder and immediate past co-chair of the Mana de San Diego Latina Success Leadership Program, SLP, of which I'm a proud alumna, class of 2022. Thank you, Adela. Thank you for joining us, our Inner Niña podcast. How are you, love?
Good morning. It's so great to be here and to see you doing this. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, part of it is we get inspired by the many Latinas that we come across. And I've been inspired by other hermanas in our organization that support this journey and encourage me to start this podcast to highlight the incredible Latinas that we have in our organization. And you're one of those examples. You've been a person that has kind of break a lot of barriers, not only for Latinas in our community, in your career professionally. So I want you to share your journey. Tell us a little bit about who Adela is and your accomplishments.
Oh, that's a tall story here. I'm very proud that I am an immigrant from Colima, Mexico. I am one of 8 children born to Juan and Rosario Garibay, who came in the early 50s. My father came in 1942, the Bracero, and then he immigrated us when I was very little. I think I was 3 years old when I got my green card. But I have lived in San Diego, particularly in Logan Heights, for all of my youth. I've had the great privilege of being able to work within a community that really embraces people. And I became, I guess you could say, a feminist during the feminist movement. But what I'd like to say happened to me first was the Chicano movement. And a lot of people, especially people that are not Mexican American, don't associate with the Chicano movement. And what I like to point out is that the movement wasn't just about Mexican Americans. It was about all Latinos facing issues of poor schools, poor, lack of education. The job market was not advancing people. It was a very difficult time, but it was also a very exciting time in our life with the civil rights movement. And this being, a time of the focus on women, I think it's so appropriate because it doesn't matter whether we come from El Salvador, Ecuador, Mexico, Colombia, Costa Rica, Cuba, you name it. What we all share in common is this ability to be able to be bicultural and also binational. And the pride that I feel with my Mexican roots are something that I know that you share with yours. Even though we're different, we're so alike. There's so much that we share. But I also like to point out that my life really took off because I started to see the need for women to come together, to work together. And I'm not just saying Latina women, I'm talking about women in general, whites, African Americans, Latinas, Asian, because we all shared similar problems in terms of we were mothers, we were daughters, we were expected to do more. Depending on where you were in the pecking order, you were not being given advantages. And we've all had to work hard. Fortunately for me, in the early 90s, because I'm going to fast track, I was already at IBM. I had had a wonderful career. But in the early 90s, I went to an event at Southwestern College called the Latino Symposium. And that was an effort across the South Bay to really bring about an awareness that we didn't have elected officials that represented us. And at that event, a couple of things happened. The very first thing is that I met 2 of my best friends in life. One of them is Norma Hernandez, the retired president of Southwestern College, who is like my hermana. She calls me her little sister. And the other one is Mary Salas. Garcia Salas. And Mary was the one that was involved with Mana. And she invited me to go to a Mana meeting. And I got there and I didn't know anyone. It was a very small group at the county admin building. And I thought, oh gosh, I don't know anybody here. And they were all kind of, you know how we do, we get with our own little pack, you know. And so I was feeling like I had made a mistake going, like this wasn't for me. But then I started hearing what they were talking about and paying attention. And I said, oh, heck yeah, I absolutely am in the right place. Because as a woman, I think the thing that's a little different about me is that I have had a lifetime of being able to recognize that I could not do it alone, that I shouldn't do it alone, and I didn't need to do it alone. Do you understand that? They're three different things. But for me to have gotten into an organization like Mana, which I will be honest, at first I was just a paying member. And then all of a sudden, when I became manager of community relations for IBM, I was able to send some of the money to them and to other Latino organizations that were doing a tremendous job that hadn't been taken care of. And so I felt like I was doing a really good job of educating people that needed to know about the good work being done from these organizations, and at the same time, helping them to be able to provide more services. So my Mana journey was really great because all of a sudden now I'm finding that my Mana members, my hermanas, are really hermanas. And I have such a wonderful network of women that I can call on. One of the things that I think is really important for me that I learned very early on, because I had an immense drive and all that, but I also was like this wild little thing that needed to be kind of guided and all of that. And I had great mentors and I had great champions. And those are two different elements. But I now practice that if a woman wants to get ahead, you must have those two elements. You must not only just believe in your own abilities and do everything that you can, you got to surround yourself. And there is absolutely no reason why any woman anywhere should go at it alone. But we are the type of people that, you know, we kind of have this thing like we've got to do it all. And if we don't do it all, then we're not successful. And what I'm trying to teach people is that the greatest thing that you can do as a woman is know how to organize and know how to engage others. And leading is not, to me, has never been about me being at the front of the line. Although because I'm 5 feet, I was always at the front of the line. But I'll tell you, leading is being able to work with others toward a common goal. And that's the one thing that I have loved about the women that I have met, you included, because I think it's really, really important for us as women to know our strengths and then to tap onto the other things. And when we don't have something, my God, please, whatever we do, spell it out. Ask for help. Who do you know? What do you need? But, you know, we should all keep something in our hip pocket. I call it in my hip pocket of what are my needs? Because at any time you may be talking to somebody that can help you. So my journey has been one of great joy. It has been a great struggle. It was not easy to get to a position that I got to in IBM. It was a tremendous struggle. But I also know that I'm able to do now what I love to do, and that's to help other women because I did the journey. I had the help, and I know that there's still a lot more to do.
Thank you for that. Definitely. I know that you've shared a lot of our stories with us, and you're part of the inspiration, which this is the reason why you started the Latina Leadership Program. Go to the viewers that are new to this channel. We talk about Mana. Mana is the largest and oldest Latina organization, and its mission is to empower and elevate create upward mobilities for Latinas of all ages. Our main program is our Hermanitas, which is pairing them up with a mentor in junior high. Interesting fact about that is when it was founded, that program is because there was a need that was recognized that about 45% of Latinas in our communities were not graduating, and back in the 90s when our San Diego chapters was founded, they recognize a need because the Latina girls in junior high were either joining gangs or getting pregnant and definitely not graduating. So the focus is the Hermanitas to get them mentored to graduate junior high and eventually go to high school. But there was eventually recognized that there was a need for Latina leadership for those that already are in the working phase or career professionals. And I'm going to have her explain a little bit more about that. But she's a co-founder and co-chair former co-chair of the LSLP, which I was proud. I learned a lot, but it's continued development for like career women and career Latinas. Tell us a little bit about how that idea came about. What inspires you and how you created that
Yeah, well,
program?
every other year, Mana does a Latina Success Conference, which is really for women of all ages. And we've added the hermanitas, but it's not really an hermanitas conference. It's really for women. And in preparation for that, I had invited a vice president that I work for to come and be our opening speaker. Her name is Brenda Bazan out of Texas. And I decided to do some research to be able to talk because she was in an area of business that I knew she was going to talk a little bit about. And I stumbled across a study from the Center for American Progress that showed me that women were making significantly less than white men. And it flabbergasted me. It floored me because here I am. When I started IBM, I was 20 years old in San Diego. I was the first Latina hired in IBM San Diego, not across the whole country, but in IBM San Diego. There were no other people like me. There was a guy named Carlos that had been hired, I think, 6 months before me, but we were the first. And all of a sudden, here we are 20 years later, and we're having this conference. Actually, it was more like 25 years later, and we're having this conference. And my God, the wage scale was terrible. And so I went back to the board, and I had the great pleasure of having served on the board. And I went back to the board, who at that time had a great president, Catherine Arambra, and great executive director, Sofia Salgado, and a wonderful board member named Lupe Buell. And I pitched to them and I said, guys, this is unacceptable. We cannot do this. We must do something. So they asked me, what do you think we ought to do? And we did something at the conference. It's a long story, okay, how we got here. This would be a chapter in my book. But let me just net it out for you. I was able to connect from Inez Gonzalez. I was able to connect because of her with a Jewish woman named Rosa Belser, who's a Latina. And she was in Venezuela at the time doing some stuff, but she lives here in San Diego. And I pitched to her at Nordstrom's and I showed her the data. And Rosa said to me, and so Adela, what do you want? And then I said, I want a leadership program for our women. There is none for them. They are the first in their families going at it alone, without mentors, without champions, and there's no reason for it. We need to help them to find their network. We need to help them to see themselves differently and to get whatever they need to continue the journey. I said, they're getting stuck, and we know that the power is at the top in CEOs, in vice presidents, in directors. If you're in middle management, yes, you have an influence, but until you get to the top where you get to call the shots or really influence. And so I said, they're getting stuck in the middle. Let's do something. And when I went back through the help of the board, they all agreed that we should do this. We went at it and we started a little committee. I went and I formed, let me just tell you, Maria, you know this. My skill is that I build the best and strongest teams. That is what I will be known for. Not so much that I'm a great leader. I am a great leader because I love to collaborate, but my ability to bring in the right talent. We had such an amazing time. When we announced that program, without any press releases and all this other stuff that, to advertise, we had 65 women that applied. We took 60. But can you imagine? Because there was nothing. We had the first program that we ran was at National University. It was so well attended, but the women that went to it were like you. You would tell other people, oh, you got to go to this program. It's great. Because the women started seeing, but at the very first session, one of the gals stood up and said, I am the first in my company. And being here today, I realized that I am not the first one in the job market. And she recognized the tremendous value of being able to be with like-minded women. Even if we were from different industries, it was still okay. The following year, this woman, Rosa Belser and Monse Auso, who came to the plate with her and they created the content for Latina Success with Cristina Padilla coming in afterwards, they presented to the Center for Creative Leadership. It is an executive leadership training organization, and they are ranked among the top in the world. Located in La Jolla, yes, but they were located in La Jolla, and we were able to pitch our program to them. And because they saw the opportunity, we were able to pinpoint and talk about the need, but more importantly, the opportunity that Latinas presented. Okay. They agreed to partner with us. And so we had a formal partnership that second year with the Center for Creative Leadership that continues today. But since we started this program, we have had over 300 women that have gone through it. So it's a program that is unique because you have to be a MANA member. We're not opening it up. We're not making money out of it. If you were to take this program at CCL, it would cost you thousands of dollars. But because it's for our MANA members, it's there. And we are saying our goal is to get you to climb as high up in your career and then to come back and serve your community. Either get on boards, get on commissions, or run for elected office. Advance as much as you can, because I know that when I got into a position where I was able to write the checks for IBM, sign off who got the checks, I could drive the money a certain way, and the need is still there. So this program would not have happened. And the founding members that were there, we were a small team, but we were very focused. And I got the best of the best to do that. And then we had to, like I said, the next year CCL came, and every cohort, when I run into the women, the first thing they tell me is how valuable that program was. Because when you invest in a woman, you're not just investing in them, you're investing in the whole community that they're going to touch.
You're right about that. It's a full investment, and I really got a lot out of that program. By the way, I'm proud too that I was an alumni, and I still keep in touch with my cohort. And part of it, what I got out of it, and it was very intentional, the way everything is planned out. We bring other Latinas to teach different, from branding to how to become board members, to make sure that we are participating. And that's something that we focus on the organization, making sure that we are sitting at the tables that are making those decisions for us. So one of the trainings that we get in this particular program is to be active and become board members, right? To make sure that we're part of the decision making. And one of the things, the takeaway that I got from that program, is, which is great, it's kind of creating and the way I can best describe it, compare it, is a sorority when you're in college. I didn't get a chance to experience the college life because I was a working mom, and so I went to school at night. But when I see in TV the sorority where I was a sister of, and they named their sorority, I want to say I am hermana of this kind of sorority, hermandad. So whether we're sitting in an elected official position and we're there to support each other, we know we can lean on each other for guide, advice, to help create and open those doors for us, right? So that's kind of like I see it. And this opportunity with this program was very helpful for me, because we never stop learning just because we get to a certain age. And this is what I love about our organization. Although we start at a young age to create that support system, educational, it doesn't stop with them. It continues with us. And after the program, we still do workshops, we do conferences, we do other events to help continue developing and be active, so we can continue mentoring the generations that come in behind us. So I got a lot of that program, by the way. So thank you for leading it. And tell us what's going on right now. I know there were some changes with what's going on in, the current climate. And that's not taken away from these programs.
No, I think the climate today is very frightening with what's happening with women overall. And I'm going to be very honest about how I feel about this thing. So it may be a little rough. When I joined IBM 1970, it was because of the civil rights movement. It was forcing companies through legislation in Congress to hire populations that hired people that were a part of the population. So I didn't get hired because I came with the brightest resume. I came in the very lowest entry-level position as a secretary at IBM. And the civil rights movement, the Chicano movement in particular, because they came at the same time, okay? The civil rights movement was in the mid-50s, through the 60s. And The Chicano movement was more the late 60s, early 70s that it affected me. But when I came in, I had to deal with the fact that everybody thought that I got hired just because I was a Mexican. And it was like, oh, she's a little Mexican, and it was hard. Fortunately for me, there were a lot of other people that were in the company that weren't judgmental like that. But there were some just like there is today. It's natural. I mean, there's going to be people that are always thinking that we're out for a buck and that we're not worth anything. I had to prove myself constantly, constantly. And there were opportunities that were offered to women as a whole, not just to minority women, okay, because they wouldn't have had a whole class. There weren't that many across the company. But there were things that were done for women. Those opportunities for women took advantage of the workforce by this year. And I'm a young person. I'm listening to this, okay? The projections of what the workforce was going to look like in 20 years was very different. So if you right now had a workforce that was primarily men who had wives at home that stood home and took care of the kids, you weren't worried about childcare. You weren't worried about start times. You weren't worried about shared, desks. You weren't worried about remote working. None of that existed because it was a very different work environment. But as the company, and IBM was ranked number one in the Fortune 500, I worked for a top company, they were looking ahead, but they were also educating us at the same time that this was happening. And for me, I understood what had happened because there was the civil rights movement and the Chicano movement. What I see happening now with the dismantling of programs for women, the lack of the focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion, that should alarm everyone because we are a country and we are, even in our own geography right here, so multicultural, multi everything. And I look across and I don't see just this one area that's all white or all Mexican or all, Latino over here, or all Black or all Asian. I see us all together. And so for me, that sense that they're destroying this stuff, I'm saying, how are we going to position ourselves to help one another if the focus and the programs that were offered to try to even the playing field are now being dismantled? If the people, and some of the people that were working in areas now have to change their titles, they take it all out, okay? You know, they don't want any titles. But importantly, the dollars spent. We need dollars spent to continue to educate our community. We are a great big voting bloc, and we must not be silent and ask people to not give us money or accept that they won't give us money because of a climate that's there. The work that we do to educate women, to be successful, to be ahead, to help companies, to be valuable, not to them, just to themselves and their families, but to the companies that they work for. That's something that resonates with everything that we do. So I'm just really baffled that there's this take back, because to me, what it says, we didn't present the value of what we were doing. And so right now, my mission is, how do we, in the face of taking away diversity, how do we now continue to offer support to women? And it's not going to be because somebody in a company will do it. But with today's technology, what you're doing right now, by educating, by bringing in women, by being able to give us a platform to have these kind of discussions, all of that stuff matters. But I want everybody to know that it is not okay for them to dismantle this stuff. It is not okay. So #, it is not okay. It is not okay to erase DEI. And they're doing it right now, but you can take away the title, but the mission of what you do should not be something that gets thrown out. And so how we support each other, how we can provide help toward each other, that's what I'm thinking about. That's what has my wheels turning.
Great advice. I think we need to hashtag that. And to your point, right, this is the platform that was created for this, because I'm always amazed of the women and the trailblazers that have paved the way. If I can say, and I say that to the girls that I mentor, I am proud that I can say I stand on incredible women's shoulders that are leading me, because I'm still learning. And you're one of them, because we have a lot of passion. And I'm a small version of you in certain sense, but part of it with the change in that's going on right now is like they want us to go back and revert to being
It's not
quiet.
happening.
And so that's not going to help and that's not going to bring the progress that we need because we're talking about how the organization started in the 70s because we were fighting for the same things that we're still fighting to this day. Literally, the only improvement we've made in a sense, we're educating more of our girls where now the voices are amplifying, but we can't stop, right? We can't stop that. And I'm hoping that this platform is giving an opportunity for more Latinas like yourself to share the stories and realize that we have the power. We have the power to drive some changes as long as we continue communicating and basically sharing our stories,
And
right? You've
working
done
with
a
them.
lot of
Yeah.
work, a lot of work. That needs to be shared. These stories needs to be shared because we need to inspire the next generation. And one thing that I've actually uncovered because I'm very active in the community and by profession, the current climate has shared some fear where women in the workplace are not even more fearful to speak up because they feel they don't have the protection at work. I know it's almost like reverting to, the 80s and the 70s where we didn't have a lot of the rights that we have at work. So talking to a lot of women in the workforce almost feels like those feelings come back because they take away DEI and it's almost like you can't talk about that anymore. You can't say that. And we used to have a little bit of a protection. There were a lot of initiatives. Employers were willing to promote that. And all of a sudden, there's a halt, there's a stop because of what's going on. I was afraid to say, I'm part of this organization that promotes, this culture. It's almost like we have to be quiet in a sense, right? And that's unfortunate. It really is. And it takes women like you and I and a lot of us in our organizations that are valientes, we're brave, and we're like, no, we're not going to be quiet.
Now,
We're gonna amplify our voices. And one of the things that takeaway I get from you, because I'm always learning, you're a big advocate. You help create those learning opportunities, but then you also rally us to make sure we're advocating for what's important in our rights as Latinas, our Latinos, and our Latino communities. So tell us a little bit more about the advocacy work that you do, that you started from, like you say, you talk us the civil movement, civil rights movements. You've been in that through generations.
well,
Tell us about that.
yeah, when I was little, I got to see John Kennedy when he was a senator, and I just remember the excitement of being in. He came and he spoke from the grant over at Horton Plaza in downtown San Diego, but I was in the fourth grade, and I just absolutely loved that atmosphere of being there because they allowed. This is how easy it was back then. They allowed us to go from the school if our parents allowed us. So we walked from Sherman Elementary in Barrio Logan all the way downtown to go see this young man. Since then, I had this hope. I don't know what it was, but I have always believed, because I believe strongly in the Constitution, that this country is for all of us. I saw my father work very hard, and he came here as a bracero. I saw my mother work very hard. And I just feel that there is this great opportunity. I don't want to live in fear of opportunity. And what I see happening today with all of these poor people that they're just pulling off the streets, that stuff really hurts. It really hurts because they're people that are doing jobs that other people don't want. Okay. And for me, in the 90s, one of my greatest friends is a man named Roger Casares, who was the executive director of the MAC project. In fact, in a book that has a chapter, not a chapter, but has a few pages of my story, the book is called We Made San Diego. I talk about him because Roger was very influential in having companies go to him to try to find workers. And when I met Roger, one of the first things that he did was to get me engaged in things that I needed to go. And when they had the Latino Symposium, I was already in management at IBM and had been for a number of years. But I went out of curiosity, and because he nudged me, he said, "You need to go." So I went, and I'm sitting there, and the thing was that they were recognizing that we had no power because we didn't have elected officials. And so the issues that we were dealing with weren't surfacing. They weren't going to the top of the place to get worked on. And so that was the issue of the Latino South Bay Symposium that I attended. There were three strands in that thing. And the one strand that I gravitated toward was the one on fundraising, because we didn't have the deep pockets to be able to do it. And running for office has a lot. And so it isn't just knowing what to do, how to do it, but you have to have the money. So I decided that that would be one. Well, once I got in there, I teamed up with a small team of people and we created the Bahia del Sur was a concept, but we were the team that gave it life, got it all into the incorporated status, and then started having fundraising activity for Latino elected officials. We had to go through the process. So I learned this stuff that I didn't know. It was really interesting. But what I also saw is that need for all of us to participate. You shouldn't just show up and vote. You should know who you're voting for. And if somebody is taking care of your issues, understands your issues, it shouldn't matter whether they're Latino or non-Latino. If they're addressing your issues, they need your support. And fortunately for me, I got to know quite a few of the top outstanding Latino candidates that were coming at that time. And one of the things that happened is we started saying, we want to do this, we need to do that. And then you start finding that all these resources that other people knew about all of a sudden become something that we now have knowledge of. And so for me, I've never seen the advocacy part to be something that isn't part of me. The one thing that I've done is I've gone to the Women's March. I've been at a number of marches. I have canvassed for individuals. In fact, one of the proudest moments that I have now as a hermana is that in the first cohort of Mana's Hermanitas program is someone that I love very much. Her name is Venus Molina. And Venus is now a candidate for District 8 in San Diego for the council. And I've gone to walk precincts with her. I'm supporting her. But I know this young woman's talent, her life, and I know she is a drop dead great candidate. She is absolutely outstanding. So I'm not afraid to say my support goes here. And I think too often times people will say, "Oh, do we what they're saying?" Well, if you don't understand, pick up, email them. Hey, we need more information. They usually have very excellent people that are out there in their community. So even if the elected official is not calling you back, they have representatives. Use them. They're wonderful people. You should know who they are. And they want to hear from us. They don't want to have everybody else's things. That's the other thing is how many of us, when we are dealing with an issue, just like the one that I told you about DEI, I want every woman that's an elected official to say, it is not okay that they're dismantling us. Okay? It is not okay. Thank you, Costco, for not dismantling your DEI emphasis. Okay? I think that we as consumers should say, thank you, I'll give you my business, and I'm not going to go shop there because you're going against the things that are helping me. And so I call it easy peasy because it should be very clear. Where do you stand? And when you decide that you know where you stand, you will find a group of people that stand with you and a group of people that don't. The ones that don't stand with you, it's okay. That's the world. The ones that stand with you, figure out how to work even better. And so that's where I'm at. But I believe that because I came to this country, that I value this country more than people that sometimes are born here. And I will never, ever accept anyone to say that I have a back seat, ever. And I think that every woman, and especially the men that we're with, they have the obligation to say, yeah, we're here, we're contributing, we're doing good. How do I help my kid? This is why I love Mana, because we're a lot of like-minded women. And I'm thrilled that we have white women and Asian women and Black women that support us, and men from all categories that are also there. And like I said, we just need to make sure that as we go through this ugly road that we're going through right now, that we do not fall backwards and not get what is rightfully earned by us and start going backwards. Okay? That should not happen. It will not happen if we don't allow it. And that's the advocacy in me. And it can be as simple as writing, talking, insisting, getting somebody to come and speak so that they hear the issues. I think that that's all good. All of us across this country should be demanding that of the people that are we elect in office.
Great advice. And I know that you do a lot. You're leading. You talk about driving. You're driving the bus on a lot of the things that we do in our organization. Your passion transcends in a lot of things that we do to take initiative. One recommendation you could do besides recommending anybody that wants to get involved with MANA. We're a nationwide organization. Both of us are part of the MANA de San Diego. That's how I started. But I'm part of the national board. If you're interested in supporting the cause, education, mentorship, and advocacy, we welcome you to look up your local chapter. You can go to hermana.org for the national website, or you can go to MANA de San Diego, we have 2 chapters here in San Diego, to get involved. Right now, we're fundraising at the moment because education is a big kind of what we focus a lot of, because we educate, we know that we open a door, more will come in, and we need all the support that we can get. So we ask that you join us. Any other location or any other way that you recommend they can join and get information to get involved?
Well, I think that going to the website to get the information is there. Do like I did. Be curious. Just like when I went to the Latino South Bay Symposium, somebody told me about it. Roger told me about it. I went, I was curious. And just like when Mary told me, come to MANA, come to a meeting. And I felt out of place. I didn't really know anybody. But when I heard what was being said, it resonated with me. So I say, get uncomfortable. Get uncomfortable, because I think that that's when you grow the best. And then there's people that need your talent. We all have different talents. The one reason that I started laughing when I first met with the team, that we were the founding members of the LSLP, I said, I'm so sick that I go to meetings and they keep popping up with the same people to come in and serve on a board. I said, my God, we got all this talent across the city, but we're not connecting them. And I said, and that is just so unbelievable that we don't do that. But we've got to help each other. If you know something, or one of the really coolest things is, I have a young gal that I know, and she really needed public speaking. And she said, oh my God, I was so terrible. So what does she do? She starts doing an event, not an event, but she starts donating her time and working with a group that was Toastmasters. Okay. And through the Toastmasters program is how a woman that got me in to be a leader for MANA, Nelly Andrade, met somebody from MANA. And so I just think that there's all these flavors of things that people can get into. But no matter what you get into, do not lose sight that we are not at parity. We haven't reached the level playing field that people talked about. There's still this wage gap. And I told you, Maria, that, the last couple of years we stand at the county admin with, we are, underpaid. I said, when we talk on this podcast, I'm going to say that's not okay. That is not okay. It shouldn't be okay with anybody. Saying it's okay is fine for the moment, but then what are you going to do to help to turn that page? And so I think that for me, the excitement comes when I see people like you taking off, when I see other people that are doing wonderful things. And then when I see that the people that attend, especially because when we're together, people say, God, we need to do more. And you know why? Because it feels good to contribute. I have spent over 40 years of my life in community service. Different boards. MANA is just that's my passion. Okay. That's where I've had the longest, but I have done other wonderful things. And I feel like it's okay. Right now, one of the things that I'm working with is I'm the council council chair of Casa de Misericordia, a community resource center. We created it during the pandemic because all of the information that was coming across was all in English. And the people didn't have the language, didn't have the technology. So I brought together a sister and a priest and said, we got to do more to help our people. And they agreed. So we formed together. And all of a sudden, I brought all the leaders of the nonprofits. And I said, you're getting the goods. We've got the people. Let's not replicate. And we started doing this. It's now continued. And now it's helping a lot of the migrants that are being affected with what's going on. And for me, that's something that, because even though I came as 3 years old and it was, I had my green card, I still am sensitive to the fact that things happen to you when you don't know the language. I did not know how to speak English until 2nd grade. And English is a second language to me. And I swore that once I would learn it, I would speak it better than most. And so for me, this passion that says join, see where there's a need, and engage. If MANA's not what you need, find out what is available to you as a woman and get out there. And I would like to see MANA chapters in every city because to me, the need is there. The programs are there. You don't have to create a program. The programs are there. But the sisterhood that's formed should be happening in every city.
I love what you're saying because it's kind of what I'm actually focused on. Just got elected for my second term with national, and in my list and presentation is like I would love, and I share this with you separately. We have a very young chapter is a collegiate chapter for one of the university, and it's doing so well. We have a lot of members, and is now including hermanos, and they see the involvement in the community. And so one of the things I'm working with the hermanas and a couple of them in the national is like, how do we get a collegiate chapter at every college and university? Why don't we take this hermandad, this sorority of sisterhood, Latina sisterhood, in every campus? Because just the fact that you go to college, I went to college and I didn't know what I was doing. You still need mentoring. And so if I had a wish right now, and I'm manifesting it as loud as I can, and you're going to hear that repeated in a lot of the episodes. I figured if I'm putting it out there, God willing, in the manifestation world, it's going to happen. And we talked about that. San Diego has a lot of universities, and we have a big presence in our organization with a lot of key members in very important roles that are success stories of these programs and organizations. So we wish, and I wish, that we can get those chapters started. Because to your point, every city, every college, get a chapter set up with all these benefits and programs. So I share that. And so let's make it happen, Adela. Let's start with San Diego, so you have all these connections. So I know that we share a lot of the passion, and you're definitely someone that keeps really busy, not just with the organization, but other nonprofits. What are you currently working on at this moment?
I'd like to be able to, I just came off of being the chair for LSLP. Aixa Morales Calleros and Cristina Badilla are now taking the helm from Lupe and myself. And I'd like to work more on the alumna, how to be able to help the alumna to stay together, to help each other, to really take it to another step. Because I think that I see MANA as the greatest potential of any of the organizations because we are focused on what we're doing. We're not in every spot. We've now picked what spots we want to be in, and we have that. But the need for people to continue to collaborate, to grow together, to help each other is still there. And so I want to be able to shape how we keep that going, how we grow it, how we keep it going, and how by being in that organization you bring value to yourself and to others. That is the goal. And so, as we go forward, that's the thing that I'd like to contribute more. And like I tell you, it's not because I'm a great leader. It's because I know how to build teams. I've always thought that the teams are wonderful, and it's really important to engage people and to broaden the thing. Don't keep it to yourself, and to find ways that you can now, whether you have 10 minutes or 10 hours, not to be afraid. And especially if you're in a job and you're in a position where you have somebody that wants to advance in their career and they don't know and they want to present, let them know. Let them know. We have great leaders that are now driving different things like Hermanitas, Alumni, the scholarship. I'm really proud of the fact that MANA gives away so much in scholarship money because it's always been a financial thing that's tough. But I'll tell you, for me as an individual, the thing that I can do is I only have X number of hours. If I spend those hours wisely and in things that I feel that I can contribute, those are great moments for me because if you are spending time in something that doesn't bring you joy, get rid of it. And for me, I love being with my hermanas. I love being with my hermanos, especially the hermanos. And I'll tell them, hey, you come to the table. And we've had hermanos even on our board. So I don't want anybody to feel that this is an exclusive club. It's a club for all of us. And it's really just the sisterhood and brotherhood that comes together to say we solve our own problems, we help each other, and then by doing so, we help our country and our community.
Absolutely. Great point. And to your point, right, we do, when I first started, we had a male board member. We do have hermano supporter. We also need allies. And we have a lot of those allies that believe in the programs, and believe in the efforts that the organization is doing, and they're very supportive.
Hmm.
Not all of us are Latinas, but we have a lot of support from our male counterparts and as well as companies that are supporting our cause. So thank you for that. So a lot of the things that we share, like the passion that we have in the organization, but what aside from the volunteer and the community effort motivates you? What motivates Adela?
Well, I'm a grandmother. I have a 10-year-old grandson and a 6-year-old, Connor and Wyatt, and I'm doing for them what my mother did for me, and that's to be their primary bus driver, taking them to sports, picking them up, helping my daughter to be successful the way my mother helped me. So I think it's really important for me as a grandmother to um, to be able to help them to be better, to help them to love their culture, to help them to love each other, and to learn how to work together, and all the things that I wish I would have had a little bit more time with, because I think presence at schools make a difference. I think for them to have access to things, I think are also important, but I want them to be immensely proud of the fact that they are bicultural and they are bilingual. And so for me, those are two things that are at the top. And then I have a 100-year-old mom that is, not doing well, but she's still here. And so as a caretaker, that's a role. And I wouldn't trade that for the world because of everything that my mother has done for me. I would not be who I am without that woman. And so for me, in the midst of all this stuff is, where is Adela? Where is Adela? And Adela is still that same little girl with a lot of desire, a lot of. I was frightened for so much. In fact, I was laughing with my younger sister because I said, God, in every picture I look like I'm scared or mad. And that's the way my life was because I was in such a different environment. And I think that I feel that that little girl that was there continued to grow because there was a lot of people that helped her. And so I want to be and continue to be to every woman that calls me, every woman that I meet that says, hey, you know, help them to do what they need to do and guide them the way I was guided. And I think that it doesn't take that much time. It just takes care. So that's what drives me.
Thank you so much for that. I lean on you for advice, and I know there's someone that I can always reach out when I come to a crossroads. You're very accessible to all of us in our organization, so I thank you for that. As you share your wisdom and what you've been working on, so what are you working on next?
Okay, well, right now I'm focused on the alumni because we have over 300 women that have gone through our program. And the greatest need that we have right now is to continue to provide things that help them, especially in the face of a lot of uncertainty with what is happening in the workforce today with programs going away and support. And there are things that we need to continue to do for them. And fortunately for us, we have immense talent among that group. And so it's, how do we bring that talent? How do we use it? How do we make sure that we're not just leaving it on the table? And that takes time, and it takes building a team, trying to figure out how we can present things of value that are good for them, keep them engaged and keep them focused. And then at the same time, what are other things that are existing out there that they may not know about, that they should know about? And so I think that that's one thing that I'm focused on. And I know that there's a need out there because, as an organization, once you go through the program, if you don't want to be an Hermanitas mentor, or you don't want to serve on the board, or you don't want to, just keep going to the, whatever mixers we have, we will lose them. But these women that go through this program, are like yourself, are outstanding. And if they came here with a need to bond together, to work together, then we should figure out how we do more of that. And so that's something that I'm focused on, that I would like to figure out how we do that. Because I think that building a strong base of women is the most important thing that any chapter can do. And I'm not talking about just the leadership. I'm talking about your membership, putting your membership in action. Okay. Having them all find value in being able to get those that want to contribute to do that contribution, giving them avenues to contribute. I think that that's something that will not only be helpful for the organizations, but also for the individual women and the families that they represent. Plus, I think
Great advice.
that, that there's great fun when you get together. I don't know, you know this. I mean, it
I
is just
do.
such a feel good when you are with someone that you went through and when you see each other. And I love that, you told me you still stay in touch with some of the women from the cohort that you participated in. That's amazing.
Yeah, and it's really important. And I can actually vouch for that because there have been events that I show up and I'm having an off day, which we all do. Something is, going in personally or at work. And then when I'm at those events, was a retreat, a conference event. I'm going to be attending one this weekend. I come back and I feel like I get re energized because you cannot leave that event and be around a group of so many badass Latinas and not be inspired, regardless of what age you're in. And the message I'm also trying to share with the young generation is, this is what I want them to model as they grow up and they go into the field and they become hermanitas, hermanas, or leaders in their community, that we do it together, right? There's strength in numbers. I enjoy it. So looking forward to what you're going to do because I am an alumna. So I'm definitely going to be participating in those events. Just send me a text and you know what? Smoke signals. I'll be
There you
there.
go.
So I love it. I love it. So you share a lot with us today, but I know you also have other Adela wisdoms. What Adela wisdom will you share with us and our audience?
I would say that try to focus on knowing who you are because too often times we let other people define who we are. But we in our own heart know who we are, what drives us, what matters to us. And if you are serious about whatever you want to do, don't go at it alone. I think that that was the one thing that I learned in my journey at IBM. I didn't need to go at it alone. It was not looked at that you were weak if you asked for help. It was not looked at as weak if you were looking for what resources are available. And if you have resources, to share them. Because I think that we as women, too often, we think we have to do it all. If you look at the men usually build teams. So I say, let's learn from the men. Let's build our own teams. You don't have to go at it alone. If you have a deficiency somewhere, recognize that it exists and then look for the resources to get you to the place you want to be where it's not a deficiency anymore. All of that occurs. All of that can happen, but you have to recognize you are not alone. You do not need to be alone, and you shouldn't be alone. I think that
Great
that
wisdom.
would be the
Yeah.
greatest thing. I will tell you after I retired from IBM in 2009 after 38 years of service. And I saw a lot in the workforce. But what I saw of my own life is that when I was very young, I was so interested in going, climbing the mountain, getting to the top, getting to the top. And when you're climbing up, you're focused on the sky, you're focused on how not to fall back. Okay. When you get to a certain age, and I'm talking to all the women now that are either, I call it the silver hair, although I will never be silver haired, that you are coming now down. And what you're watching is your footing. You're watching the things that you grab onto and you're seeing the beauty of things. So at this stage of my life, I am not the same Adelita that was climbing, okay? But I am still moving. And I'm just enjoying life a little different. And I get to stop when I want to stop. I don't have to have everything on my plate. I think that that is what I wish every woman would kind of concentrate on. What is my balance point? Not just what I want. At what point do I want to say that I'm here? And it's work, it's recognition, but you don't have to do it alone. You do not have to do it alone, nor should you. And that's my message.
Great advice. And that's a great takeaway. And I'm glad I can always lean on you.
Oh,
So, one of the things that this podcast, the reason I created this podcast, and for those that are just listening for the first time, is I'm in a healing journey. I'm an immigrant and I've gone through a lot. And I created this podcast for Latinas as a safe place because being around incredible Latinas through the organization in my community,
told me a lot, that there's a lot of us with incredible stories that need to be shared, they need to be told to inspire each other, regardless of what age that we're in, but also, more importantly, inspire the next generation of Latina leaders that are going to take and run with what we're planting today, right? So we are fortunate that we stand on incredible Latina shoulders, and like Adela, I'm standing on hers. I want others to stand on our shoulders and continue their journey. So this podcast is exactly for that, for us to tell our story.
Yeah, I was featured in a book. I'm one of several individuals that was featured in a book written by Maria E. Garcia. It's called We Made San Diego. And it's about individuals, their stories and their contributions, but also covers a whole chapter on mana. And so I think from that book, they also created a little podcast about my involvement. And that's where you see a little bit of my advocacy and concern over what's happening with DEI also come through. But that's on YouTube, and it's We Made San Diego, and it's Adela C. Garcia segment. But I'm grateful to Maria because Maria has been a historian doing things about the things in our community. And she started with a book called La Neighbor. And La Neighbor is now part of California Archives. It's a historical book. But what she recognized, as we all do, is that we're not in the history books. It is very rare to have anybody, and yet, there's some phenomenal stuff that's been done. I am very honored that I'm in this book. My journey is still not over, and I would like other women to feel like they should write about me because I've done this. That should be the goal of everybody. So I'm very, very honored to have been included in that book. I think it's a wonderful book, and it's on Amazon, or you can get a hold of me and or Maria Garcia. And I can give you the information, Maria Garcia's, if you want to put it down there. But I think the thing that I admire most about Maria is the recognition of what was lacking in her effort to try to make it right. So just like all of us that are working to try to make this place a little better for the next, a little less work for the next, a little happier for the next, I think that that's the goal. And I'm very proud to be part of that.
I'm glad and I'm proud honored that you're part of this effort, because I'm trying to create a capsule of memories that we can look back as we continue growing our efforts in our comunidad, that they can look back and get the stories of incredible Latinas like yourself making a difference in our community for Latinas. So thank you for that. And one last question that I always get ask our guests because of Inner Niña. If you had a chance to go back in time to talk to your little Inner Niña, what would you tell her?
I would tell her not to be afraid. I would tell her to relax a little bit, to still be curious, to still be a little rebellious, but to know that there's so many more people that want to help her than to hurt her. And especially as a young little girl that didn't know how to speak English till I was in second grade, they used to think I was very shy. And there is nothing shy about me, you know that. But when you can't speak the language, it does put a different stigma on you. And thank God I had incredible teachers that loved me, that took care of me, mentors throughout my entire life. I believe in mentoring because I was mentored at every step of my life. And so for me, I would just say, don't be afraid and fly. It's okay. Don't hold back, because there are more people that will catch you than what will stop you.
Great. So I want to thank that little girl, and I want to thank you for the leadership, your inspiration. I got a couple of people, and she mentioned that we're like a lot alike. We have a lot of energy, a lot of passion, and I'm going to lean on her. She mentioned the other day jokingly, she needs to give me the little guardrails so my passion can be focused, because we are full of energy. You get us in a room, it's like, woof, bouncing back and forth. Because our passion is just something that it kind of describes who we are. And I lean on you because you're an inspiration for me. So thank you for your leadership, your mentorship, and continue to lean on you as I continue to grow in my better version of my adulthood. So thank you. Thank you for joining us today and sharing your stories. To our listeners, thank you for listening and holding space for me. I am Maria Benitez, and this is our journey together. Until next time. Thank you, Adelita. Te quiero. Bye.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for holding space for me. And thank you for allowing me to walk beside you as you heal your inner niña. Until next time, please don't forget to follow and subscribe.